Hey everybody, this is Dino with her podcast.
And Michelle. I almost cut you off.
That's okay. We just want to let you know that you can find us at gangalley.com.
Like a gang in an alley. Gangalley.com.
We're on iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, Podcast Addict, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Double Pod, Apple, and we have a YouTube channel for supplemental material. But what do we normally talk about?
Oh gosh, everything, honestly.
Yep.
We touch on whatever's poignant that week.
Yeah. We wrap it into movies, TV, pop culture, whoever's ticking us off.
Ticking me off,
social media toxicity, but we always have one important message.
The most important message.
Be decent to each other. So check us out.
Our podcast. Huh?
Peace.
Hi there, I'm Lloyd.
And I'm John, and we're from Pina Comics. As we dive into your favorite pop culture topics, we may just
occasionally
use language that could be considered
globaloney.
What? No, I mean...
Oh, foul?
Exactly. Offensive?
No doubt. Crass?
You bet your ass.
Sophisticated?
What? No. Anyways, you get it by now. It's mostly just
gutter talk.
And one more thing. Watch out for spoilers. Sometimes we drop them like trousers. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Some films are destined to be known as pure trash, whether through bad critical reviews, poor audience scores, or even troubled productions. These films live with the brand of being terrible. We here at The Pint know that all of these films cannot be as bad as reputed. Some are actually just so-so, while others are actually pretty good. Our mission? Watch these films and determine if they deserve their legacy of awfulness and report our findings back to you. This is Trash, Tolerable, or Treasure.
Hello out there. This is Calvin Bouchard. May I please have your kind attention? Due to technical difficulties, it has become necessary for us to temporarily close the undersea kingdom. Now, for those of y'all who are still in the underwater portion of this park, please follow your guides, and they will point out the most convenient and accessible exits.
That was all right. That was okay. Yeah.
We've had better ones.
We've had better. All right. So, Manster, you heard his voice. He's glugging on what are you drinking tonight?
This is a Lawson's Hopzilla. Lawson's finest liquids. Speaking of Lawson's, we went last year when we went to the beer fest at College Street. Yeah, they were there, and they had some good stuff. I'm going to miss that this year.
It's hard to say what I'm going to miss most. BingCon, terrible miss. Terrificon, terrible miss. Even New York Comic Con, which should have been today, yesterday, tomorrow, terrible miss. But Elm City Brewfest, man, we ripped it up, and it's just so much fun. I feel like the funny part about Pina Comics is I feel like we've done a lot of good shows this year, and we've had a lot of good progress as a show. But everything other than the show has suffered. Like the videos aren't coming out because we can't get together to do that. We can't go out and do stuff. It's kind of like this weird dichotomy of we're still doing well on the show. The radio show's doing well, but all the outreach stuff we were doing, all the fun community stuff, You know,
I miss
and again,
all that, all the event shows.
Yeah, it's
talking to people.
Yeah, let's figure this out. Wear a mask, whatever you got to do, whatever it takes to figure it out. Let's get together and figure it out. That's all. That's where I'll leave that. You heard Andrew Morgan at the beginning explaining that this is a triple T episode. That would mean trash, tolerable, or treasure. And you've heard a couple of these. We take a movie that was considered trash and we talk about it. We bring on a guest and we discuss many different things and what could have caused this movie's reputation, other than maybe the movie itself just not being that great. We talked about a few different ones so far. Indiana Jones, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. We talked about
Waterworld.
Yeah, Waterworld. And tonight with our special guest, Mr. Keith Larson. You might remember Keith from his Pint Movie Invitational episode, which probably was 3-4 months ago at this point, Star Trek The Motion Picture. And Keith is a film producer. He's an all-around film guy, and he's also a friend and a local podcaster. And tonight we'll be talking about, before we introduce Keith, let's just say the movie right off the bat so people really, can get into it. We'll be talking about Jaws 3D, aka Jaws 3. So we're sorry if you don't want to hear this, but we're talking about it. But before we get into that, let's get into Keith a little bit and find out what's been going on in the last few months since Star Trek The Motion Picture, and how your summer has been going and what's new.
I think that Star Trek The Motion Picture, we still have the record, right? We all had the same rating for it.
Yes. Yeah.
We all voted 3.5.
Yep. That was the PMI. Yeah. 3.5 straight across the board.
I think we might have a tie again tonight. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
Can't show our cards yet, though.
Right. Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys, and good to see you both. You look in good health.
Yeah,
you
good.
too, definitely.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we're getting through it. I don't know if you saw, there was a story that the New York Times or Washington Post, I got to find it, put out July 30th, where the U.S. government admitted that they have vehicles and equipment, technology, not from Earth. And it
I did not see this.
The news cycles, and nobody paid attention to it. Like any other year, they admit, yeah, we have alien technology. I guess in the article, they have a thing called a Tic Tac, and it went from the sea floor through the atmosphere in less than a second with no sonic boom.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
And because we're obsessed with everything else,
we don't know about this.
People didn't even bat an eye. Yeah.
Wow,
if you go back and Google for it, you'll find it.
I do know
New York Times UFO or Washington Post UFO, you'll find it.
I do know that a fly landed on a guy's head for 3 minutes though the other day. I know that for damn well.
Oh, right, exactly.
And I know they're selling Halloween masks for $50 for that.
Right.
Wow, are they really?
The aliens are going to save us, John. We're going to be going to the toy fair in February because the aliens are going to get rid of the coop.
That'd be awesome. Hey, if they got the cure, or maybe even if they started it, if this was a grand experiment, you know what? Hey, just end it and we'll be good.
Right. We'll be good.
We'll be good. Yeah, and that's not to be callous towards all the people that lost their lives, but there comes a point with all this that you can't put your hands up, Yeah,
right, exactly. How many times do you guys get up, I don't want to say a week, maybe in a month, and just like, there's always a day where you go, is this real? Like all of a sudden you start seeing what's going on and you go, wait, this is actually real. And this has been going on for 8 months now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My life has been, because of work, I've maintained a schedule. So I haven't had so much time to really be home and let it set in. I mean, it's set in, but I mean, to stare at a wall like some people probably have and just for days on end. So I haven't had that. But yeah, there's times that I just when I see people in masks and it's a regular thing, I'm like, holy shit.
Today because I was in an office building, a corporate office building with a grand total of maybe 4 people in it, one being security. That's when you you're walking around an empty building and it's like, this is weird, really weird.
The first time I went, maybe 3 months ago. So this is October. So let's say maybe July or late June, probably 3 months into the whole thing, 4 months maybe. I was on my way home from somewhere, not going anywhere, but I think I went to BoomTube to get my comics. And on the way home, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go into Target and just like look around, because I haven't been to a Target. I'm wearing a mask. I feel safe. And I went into Target and I was in there for about 10 minutes, and I'm not a panicky person. I felt like hot panic, because it wasn't so much the idea of like, I'm going to get sick. It was just like, this whole situation is alien. There's like almost nobody here. Everybody's wearing a mask. Everybody looks stressed out. And I felt like, in Red Dawn, after the Russians and the Cubans take over America, and, like they go into the pharmacy, and there's like armed guards there, and the people are there to get their medicine, and everybody looks stressed out. I felt like I was in Red Dawn.
That's a really good analogy.
That's good.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's that everybody looks stressed out.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
All right, let's unstress.
Everybody's got mask acne going on their faces, and rashes and itchy.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
The when they stare back at you over the top of that mask.
That's right. You don't know what anyone looks like. You don't know if someone looks like a serial killer,
Or is, right.
Or is, yeah.
Yeah. I get that every day at work. I got regular customers that they'll say hi to me, and I don't recognize them because they look like the fucking Frito Bandito. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Someone might be yawning while you talk to them. You don't even know it.
I'll tell you one thing I have noticed is, I work retail, and I talk to a lot of people, and I have to do a lot of that fake like retail smiling and laughing to just make people feel okay about themselves. But even when I'm talking to somebody that like I like, and I'm not always like a laugher, I might smile at your story more than laugh at it. And I sometimes realize, do they even know that I'm like smiling right now?
Exactly. I thought that the other night. I was in the store and I smiled at a woman and I were doing the dance thing where you're trying to, who's going to left and right.
Right.
And I was smiling, but I think she looked pissed off because I don't think she knew I was smiling.
Yeah.
Or just being an asshole.
But you know what? She could have been smiling at you, and you wouldn't know.
Right. You're right. So,
undercover smiling.
plus to the whole thing is there's a couple people that are very talky at my gym and like slow me down or make me late. And with the mask on, I wear like a neck gaiter there. And with that and the hat pulled down, they keep walking. It's great. Hide from them. I can get my workout done and get out of there.
Incognito.
Right.
All right. So let's get into it. Let's just get right into it. Let's talk about Jaws 3D, aka Jaws 3. I'll go over a couple of simple history about this, and then we'll get into the format of the show. We're not going to go scene by scene like we do in a PMI, but we're going to talk about this movie. We're going to talk about what came out around the same time, its Rotten Tomatoes score. We're going to talk about some things we liked about it, didn't like about it. We're going to try to get to the bottom of this thing and find out whether it deserves the shit reputation it gets. So Jaws 3D, which was the original title because it was released in 3D, came out on July 22nd, 1983. This was directed by Joe Alves. Now, Joe Alves is a famous production designer who was the production designer on the original Jaws. On Jaws 2, he did Escape from New York, John Carpenter's Escape from New York, and he did the Mick Jagger action sci-fi vehicle Free Jack. In 1992, starring Emilio Estevez and Anthony Hopkins. He was the second unit director. This is important because this is Jaws 3D is the only movie Alves ever directed. He was the second unit director on Jaws 2 and on John Carpenter's Starman, which was, Karen Allen and Jeff Bridges. So this is what gets him kind of the job directing this. Now, a little bit of history about Jaws 3, and I've known this for a long time, but reading up on this, it's kind of amazing. Richard Zanuck and David Brown, the guys who produced Jaws, these guys, hey, thank God for these two guys, right? Jaws 2 came out and was pretty successful on its own. But here we are now. Jaws 2 came out 3 years after Jaws, and now we're 6 years after Jaws 2 or 5 years after Jaws 2. There's been nothing since. And you would think you got this franchise that's making money. What's the next step, Keith? What do?
You make another one.
You make another one. That's as simple as it gets. Zanuck and Brown came up with the idea that we've already seen enough of this serious shark action. So they decided to come up with a spoof that they wanted to do, and they brought in some people involved with National Lampoon, obviously the Harvard magazine that also produced screenplays for Animal House and Vacation. And what do you got, Lloyd?
I want to say the name of the spoof, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah. Let me just tell you who was involved in the writing of this first screenplay. John Hughes, who everybody knows, 16 Candles and Pretty in Pink. He was one of the people that they brought in to write the very weirdly titled what, Lloyd?
Jaws 3, People 0.
Yes. So they wanted to make a movie called Jaws 3, People 0. Now remember, even in 1981 or 2, when this thing was still gestating, Universal probably held, or definitely held, Jaws in some severe esteem, because this movie, first summer blockbuster ever, made them $1.5 trillion. This thing is like a cornerstone for Universal. Universal said to Brown and Zanuck, go fuck yourselves. You're not going to take, this. Let's not even talk about Jaws 2. You're not going to do that to Jaws. And Zanuck and Brown were so serious about this, they quit Universal, which they had been producing at for many years. Now, the first thing I want to talk about in this whole thing is I want to ask each of you, because I want to make this very clear. On this episode, and there's a good reason I brought Keith on, the three of us are massive Jaws fans. Massive Jaws fans. I'm never going to say Jaws 1 because it's not Jaws 1. It's Jaws. So we all hold Jaws in like a real high, keep it up there on a very high pedestal. How would you feel if they had made a spoof sequel or threequel, whatever you want to call it, to Jaws? Even if you don't like Jaws 2. I like Jaws 2. It's not Jaws, but it, to me, is as good as you could have gotten with what they had to work with. I always felt like Jaws 2, to me, plays more like a slasher movie because it's got the kids, it's got all that element. Scheider was good in it. He did it. It was kind of like a contractual thing. He wanted nothing to do with it, but he didn't show that on screen. So I'm going to start with the Manster and ask you, let's just put the time travel machine back to 1983, and you're in a theater and you're about to see Metal Storm, the destruction of Jared Sin, right? And before that, the trailer for Jaws 3, People 0 comes up, and you realize that this is a real sequel to Jaws, but it's a National Lampoon movie. How would you feel about that?
I think in 1983, I would not be happy about that. I really don't. I don't think so, because although National Lampoon movies are great and Jaws was great, I just don't think the two connect. And I think I feel like maybe I would have thought it would have ruined the franchise. However, 2020 me says, wow, they missed a golden opportunity.
Okay, that's fair. Keith, what do you think?
Lloyd just nailed it. I was 14 in 1983, and I would have been fuming if I saw something like that. I don't know if it would take till 2020, maybe the early 90s when they were doing all the Rambo spoofs and all those too. Then I probably would have just laughed at it and realized that then again, Jaws 3 is kind of that anyway, right? So yeah. Who knows?
All right.
No, but I'm with Lloyd. I think I would have been upset back in the day.
I'm with both of you.
Go see Jaws 3D in the theater in 3D. I have my glasses somewhere still.
I'm struggling to remember if I did. Here's my Jaws 3 story real quick. My dad, I've talked about this on the show before. My mom and dad, not separated, but they work different schedules. My mom would always take me to the good movies. My mom took me to see Star Trek 2. She took me to see Gremlins. She took me to see Return of the Jedi. My dad would take me to see Hercules starring Lou Ferrigno and War, Hunter from the Future, stuff like that.
All right, the manly movies.
Yeah, greased up man. Well, I wonder what's going on there. Okay, anyways, I got to talk to my dad. Anyways, I don't remember if I saw Jaws 3D in the theaters or not, but I do remember very clearly my next door neighbor who I've also mentioned on the show. My next door neighbor's dad is the guy that used to lend me Star Logs and Fangorias and let me borrow his videos and stuff and got me into a lot of genre stuff. And his son was like 4 years older than me. So we used to go to movies a lot together. I remember very clearly him telling me about going to see Jaws 3 and telling me things that happened in it. I remember specifically telling me about, and this gets a little spoilery, but that's fine, Philip Fitzroy's death scene. He's like, he's in the mouth of the shark and he's getting crushed. And I remember hearing that almost like I was seeing the movie myself. And then, of course, I saw it eventually on VHS or whatever. But so that's my memory. I don't remember if I saw this in the theaters or not. So this film comes out, and the story of this movie was written by a guy named, this is a weird name, Guerdon Trueblood. So of what this is this is a story.
Sounds like it came out of Scalped.
Yeah, it does sound like a Scalp character. So Guerdon Trueblood wrote a story about a shark that essentially comes up through the ocean and gets stuck in a lagoon or something along those lines.
A lake or something.
A lake. And that's the general idea of what this is. It's SeaWorld instead of a lake. But here's the crazy thing, and I don't know if I ever knew this. Oh, by the way, Guerdon Trueblood, he wrote a couple other movies, and I found this, I laughed at this one. One of them was titled Ants with an apostrophe mark. So Ants. The other one, Lloyd, is a film that you bought at the Archive when we went last time for their Black Friday event. The Archive, the great Bridgeport, Connecticut store that's attached to Vinegar Syndrome, the Candy Snatchers.
Oh, he was involved in. He wrote that.
He wrote that. So the same guy who wrote the story that they based Jaws 3 on wrote the Candy Snatchers.
I actually liked the Candy Snatchers.
Yeah, I remember you saying it was pretty good. The screen. Now, I didn't know this. I did not know this until doing the due diligence for this. The screenplay for this movie was written by Richard Matheson. Matheson.
I'm glad you brought that up. When I was rewatching it last week for this, I was like stunned. And then I thought maybe this was Richard Matheson after his stroke.
Well, I've actually got a good quote from him. I don't know if you guys saw this.
Yeah, go ahead. I read it.
It's a bit long, but stay with me. I'm a good storyteller, and I wrote a good outline and a good script. And if they had done it right, if it had been directed by somebody who knew how to direct, I think it would have been an excellent movie. Jaws 3D was the only thing Alves ever directed. The man is a very skilled production designer, but as a director, no. And the so-called 3D just made the film look murky. It had no effect whatsoever. It was a waste of time.
So he's pretty pissed off about it. Richard Matheson, if you don't know, just in movies alone, he wrote the 20,000. What was that called? In the Twilight Zone, the movie,
Nightmare at 20,000.
The one on the wings of the plane.
Nightmare at 20,000 feet.
Yeah, of course I should ask Keith. Keith also has a podcast where he talks about Twilight Zone. We're going to talk about Keith's shows at the end of this show, by the way. Yeah, so he wrote that story, which originally was William Shatner in the show, John Lithgow in the movie. He wrote The Omega Man, which he wrote the original novel too, I Am Legend, right? That was his book. So this is a guy that's not a joke.
And he's a very prolific horror writer.
It's so weird to read that he wrote Jaws 3D. Carl Gottlieb, who is a famous, he was in Jaws. He was one of the politicians in Jaws. Harry Meadows. He did a polish up on the original Jaws. He came in and did a polish up on this. He also wrote a very famous book called The Jaws Log that if you're a Jaws fan, I recommend you get. It's great. He also played, I just wanted to throw this out because
Are you going to say The Jerk?
He was in The Jerk.
Yeah.
He was, but I never knew. And once I knew this, I could hear his voice. He's also Johnny Dangerously's mother's doctor in Johnny Dangerously. He pops up like 5 times through the movie and says something like, "Johnny, it's your mom. It's her heart. We can't find it." Stuff like that. That's Carl Gottlieb. So
wow.
Yeah.
He played Iron Balls McGinty.
Iron Balls McGinty. Yes.
Quick trivia about Richard Matheson, by the way. His son, Chris, is the writer of the Bill and Ted series, co-writer.
Oh, really?
Chris Matheson. Yeah. That's his
Wow.
son. Yeah.
Okay. I did not know.
There's some pedigree there.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully Chris doesn't write Jaws 5. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. So in the original in the original script, Universal had certain requests of Matheson that they wanted him to fulfill. One of them was they had to use both of Brody's sons. Okay. So that's why we get Mike and Sean back in this. Mike more so. Sean, I don't know why they included him. It's pointless, but here's the weird part. Keith, I don't know if you knew this or not. Lloyd, you know what I'm about to say?
I'm pretty sure you're going to talk about the shark.
Yeah, go ahead, Lloyd.
Which one?
Well, they wanted it to be the same shark that was electrocuted in Jaws 2.
Yeah.
Right. What?
Yeah.
How's that even possible?
So if you've never seen Jaws 2, at the end of Jaws 2, Brody's on a raft. There's a cable. Shark comes to get him. He puts the cable in the shark's mouth. Shark bites the cable, gets electrocuted, blows up in fucking fire. And the movie ends with like a wide shot of like the Brody and the kids getting on the little island and the shark's like fucking smoking on fire. So
Marks shooting everywhere.
Marks, everything. So Universal's request of Matheson was, remember that shark that burned to death? Let's use that.
Let's get that.
Yeah.
Did you hear the last request?
I did, but I'm going to let you bring this up because it's also extremely odd.
It's so bizarre. They wanted him to write a role specifically for Mickey Rooney.
Yeah. Yep. And the killer part.
Mickey was unavailable, so
Yeah.
it just was all pointless.
But the killer part isn't that it was pointless or that he was unavailable, is that Matheson wrote a role for Mickey Rooney. And after he wrote it into the screenplay, Mickey Rooney was like, I can't do that. And they had to take it out.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that. Wow.
No. The only reason I would ever buy Jaws 3D on Blu-ray, and yes, I'm already playing my cards, is because I would want to watch a documentary about Jaws 3D. I would like to see something about all of this.
See, it's funny you say that. I was going to bring that up because I do have the Blu-ray, and there's nothing. They have the 3D version in the trailer. That's it for bonus.
Because that was something about this, is that this has never been released in home video on 3D.
Right. Till now, the Blu-ray.
The Blu-ray is. Okay.
The Blu-ray, in the bonus features, it has the 3D version, but you need a 3D player and a 3D.
Okay.
I've got three, I guess you call them three different formats that this actually has come to 3D.
Oh.
In 1986, it was called Video High Density Video Disc System.
Oh, yeah.
In 1986, that was released. And in 2008, Sensio 3D. So those were the two. And then, of course, like the Blu-ray that Keith mentioned. Well,
everybody had VHS, so as you...
That's right. Nobody had these
never
other
came
things.
out on home video.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because the info I read said it had never been released on Blu-ray in any way, shape, or form, or on 3D in any way, shape, or form.
They're not even acknowledging that it's 3D on the Blu-ray release. They're not even acknowledging that, which is weird.
Here's another thing I find weird about this movie before we get into much more. The original title is Jaws 3, numerically 3D. Jaws 2 is numerically Jaws 2.
And it's in 2D.
And it's in 2D. But when they changed this to Jaws 3, it's Roman numeral 3.
Right.
Like I'm a stickler for continuity, even with dumb shit. And why wouldn't you just take the D off and just leave the 3?
Well, and then Jaws 4 doesn't even have a 4. It's just Jaws the Revenge.
And I'm almost okay with that. If you're going to drop the numbers, drop the numbers. But if you're going to use the numbers, use the fucking same numbers.
Right.
You know? Yeah. All right.
I think, they just wanted to delineate 3 versus 3D, I guess. I don't know. It's another stupid idea.
Yeah.
It's kind of emblematic of the inconsistency of the 4.
Right.
As a whole.
I mean, even the 3D technology they used switched, they started on one type of technology and then they abandoned that for this other type. And there's so much technical stuff you can read about it, upper, lower, left, and right, and all that stuff.
Just curious, what did you guys watch it on? Did you watch it on Blu-ray or?
No, I watched it on HBO Max.
Okay. It was high def, right?
Yeah. And it looks terrible.
I paid $4 to rent it on Amazon Prime. It's okay.
High def. So we all had the same experience that I mean, there was all kinds of weird artifacting and ghosting all
on
over,
the sides,
on the vignetting. Yeah, it was a mess. It was like the only thing in clear focus would be the center of the screen, pretty much.
Yes.
You see, that's where the stereoscopic systems they used back then were just so inferior. It was horrible. Yeah. And I remember in the theater, it was bad 3D. I remember it was just like, it gave me a headache. It was so bad.
I read the day I watched this, the night of, I read a little bit about this, did my notes, and it brought that up. It said that when you watch it, even till today, even in Blu-ray, it said that like there's a lot of like smudging and blurring, and it's impossible not to notice. You're right. If it's not in, if you take a square screen, and then if you cut a globe-shaped kind of sphere, and you said, okay, that there is good. If you look out to the sides, you get a lot of blurring. You get a lot of like rainbowing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like at some point, and I get it.
I thought it was my eyes at one point. Like, I'm rubbing my eyes trying to.
Yeah, it was rough. And in a lot of spots, especially where you had like wide shots with crowd scenes, it was very smudgy and a lot of ringing around the people and stuff like that. It was bad.
I wonder why they don't. I get it. It's Jaws 3, but I would assume if they're willing to put out on Blu-ray, people are buying this. Why wouldn't they just do what they do? So many of these movies nowadays get the redo treatment, the remastered. Why doesn't somebody, I get it, it's maybe not worth it, but just fucking remaster Jaws 3.
Right. I agree.
It's gotta be someone out there that wants it enough to have a version that doesn't look like total shit. What is that? 37 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, here's an interesting thing that I've got written. The home video and broadcast TV versions were created using just the left eye image. And as a result, the picture resolution is notably poorer because it's only one half of what would normally be on there.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the way, like,
so there's not much to restore there.
They set up the two cameras stereoscopically for each eye. And I just don't think they had good alignment back then. So when they composited it, there was that weird shifting that was going on.
Yeah, but you know what's funny is, again, this might have to do with the fact that it was remade or put out on home video for 3D. I just watched last week Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D, which preceded this by a year.
Same time frame, right?
And looks great. It looks fantastic. Now, maybe when that came out on home video, they initially released that too, just as Friday the 13th 3. It wasn't on 3D then. But I mean, I don't ever remember it looking like the pile of shit that Jaws 3 looks like.
I was stunned at how bad it looked on Blu-ray. I mean, it looked VHS quality. It was bad.
All right, a couple more factoids, and then we'll get into the cast, and then we'll start talking Rotten Tomatoes and stuff. This is one of my favorite facts about this movie, is that Roy Scheider was so desperate not to do Jaws 3 that he signed up to do a favorite of mine, and we talked about it a few weeks ago, Blue Thunder.
I saw Blue Thunder in the theater, too.
So I didn't see Blue Thunder in the theater, but I did watch the very short-lived Blue Thunder television series.
Oh, nice.
With Dana Carvey as Jaffo in that. But yeah, Roy Scheider signed up to do Blue Thunder specifically to avoid any chance of them asking him to do Jaws 3.
What a smart move.
Yeah. Totally. This movie, let's see, was made for $20.5 million. It grossed $45.5 in the US. It went on to gross worldwide back in 1983, $88 million. This was filmed from June 15th, 1982 to January 22nd, 1983. And it was filmed entirely in Orlando, Florida, in SeaWorld. They use SeaWorld as their filming location. Wow. So,
right.
Yeah.
It opened at $13.4 million, which was the second highest grossing opening of the whole year.
Wow. Well, you know what? Why don't we shimmy over to that and talk about 1983? Because we always kind of talk about how sometimes a film gets beaten in history by what came out around it. Let's talk about what was out that year.
Let me start out by saying there was a lot of good stuff this year. And, my normally short little weekend list is grown quite a bit. So
okay.
You're going to get a little more this time around. All right. So for that weekend, July 22nd through the 24th, 1983, number 10, Flashdance, 1.9. That was in the 15th week.
Movies played longer.
I went to see that in the theater when I was on a summer vacation down at Old Colony Beach in Old Lyme, Connecticut, with a girlfriend of mine. It was sweet. It's one of those memories, you know, it just never leaves you.
What a feeling.
Yeah. Very nice. Superman 3, number 9. Octopussy, number 8. War Games, number 7 that weekend. Trading Places, number 6. Re-release of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, number 5. Class, number 4. Star Wars, Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, number 3. Staying Alive, number 2.
Jesus.
And Jaws 3D, number 1 that weekend.
Wow.
13.4 mil.
Keith, how many of those did you see in the theaters?
Oh boy, I saw Return of the Jedi, of course. I actually stood in line for that. I was 7th in line. The line wrapped around the theater. I went there, skipped school, went in the morning, and got in the newspaper for it. That was
Nice.
What else is on there?
Superman 3. You saw that.
Superman 3, yeah.
War Games.
War Games, of course. Yeah.
Trading Places.
James Bond. Both James Bond. Never Say Never Again was also out, right? Or did that come out in the fall? I don't
That might have been in the fall.
Yeah, probably.
There's
a lot of good ones.
Trading Places, yeah. The only not Flashdance and not Staying Alive. Staying Alive.
Yep.
The Travolta, yeah, no, didn't see either.
I always wondered, and I think you talked about it on your show recently, Keith. And as I listened, I wondered this aloud too. In 1983, how did Octopussy come out with that title?
I don't know.
Oh, things got by much better
Being
in those days.
I was all like, that's awesome. Yeah. Octopussy. You know,
it just seems like somebody would have had a problem with that and told them you got to change it.
I know. But then again, I mean, if you look at the history of Bond, I'm a huge Bond fan. Look at the names of the girls. Holly Goodhead,
right.
Pussy Galore. And,
you could throw that in the movie, but this is on the fucking marquee. Octo 8 Pussy. You know what I mean?
And there's 8 girls standing around James Bond, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a different time, man.
1983. All right, Lloyd, what do you have next?
All right, so next is the year 1983, not just that weekend. So for the whole year, I'm going to start at number 15 because Jaws 3D came in at number 15 that year.
Okay.
At 45.5. Never Say Never Again. The Big Chill at 13. Superman 3. National Lampoon's Vacation. Risky Business, number 10. Mr. Mom, number 9. Staying Alive, number 8. Sudden Impact, number 7. Octopussy, number 6. War Games, number 5. Trading Places, 4. Flashdance, 3. Terms of Endearment, 2. And Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, number 1 that year.
Good year for movies, really.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say here.
Not only a good year for movies, but do you notice how many in the top 15 of the year were also in that one weekend you just talked about?
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, and obviously that's July, so that's summer blockbuster time. But like at least 5 or 6 of them were in that
8 of them.
Yeah.
The only thing not in those top 15 was Class and Snow White.
I didn't realize, 1982 to me is one of those banner years for films, and I remember everything about 1982. I didn't realize so many of those movies came out in 83. Really good movies.
I just rewatched War Games last week. I had not seen it in many years. It's good. It's
good still though.
It's still good. It's not. I'll tell you this though, something I didn't remember. But like, well, I don't want to say an age range, but a younger Ali Sheedy, hot. She was pretty hot.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
she's one of my faves.
She was the in the 80s there. She was right there with Phoebe Cates.
Yeah. Oh, don't you? Hey, look, Phoebe Cates is
Phoebe's
up here.
Number 1, dude.
Yeah. Phoebe Cates.
Ali Sheedy was way up there for me. So yeah.
Yeah. Very cute. Very cute.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk, Lloyd, a little bit about Rotten Tomatoes, and we'll talk about what this thing earned in the tomato meter. If the film is, if it has positive reviews of 60% or more of critics, the film is considered fresh. All right. So that means it's got the red tomato.
Certified fresh.
If the positive reviews are less than 60%, 59% or below, The film is considered rotten, and it gets one of those green splat motherfuckers. All right. So let's see where this held its weight in Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, let's read I'm going to read what the consensus was in words here. A cheese-soaked ocean thriller with no evident reason to exist. Jaws 3 bellows forth with a plaintive yet ultimately unheeded cry to put this franchise out of viewers' misery. So sounding to me like not fresh. 12% on the tomato meter.
Wow.
12.
This is easily the worst rated that we've done.
By far.
Easily. I'll bring it up again, and we talked about it, and we both voted Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull tolerable, Lloyd. I'm still amazed at that Rotten Tomato score was
they were high. Yeah.
That thing was high.
As a matter of fact, I think all the triple T's we've done have all been certified fresh.
Yeah.
So far.
I think we've been talking more word of mouth. I think this one is more factual. Like this may actually be as bad as said. So
that's right. Well, the audience score, the audience didn't think it was quite so bad. Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
You got it, Keith. Give us the audience score.
17% based on 187,791 reviews.
Wow.
That's a lot of reviews.
That means people want to chime in on this.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. So that's the tomato meter. We know that this thing is a big fat green splat. Why don't we move on and talk a little bit about who was involved in the cast of this film? Because there's some people in here, that's for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, the main character is Mike Brody, who's the son of Chief Brody from Jaws and Jaws 2, played by Dennis Quaid, who I like. I mean, I think he's a tremendous actor. Got a lot of talent.
Same.
I got a note that I wrote down real quick about Dennis Quaid, and I like Dennis Quaid. So this is not in any way, shape, or form coming down on Dennis Quaid, but I notice it, especially watching something like this and thinking about their ages being about the same, probably. Dennis Quaid is essentially dollar store Harrison Ford.
Yeah. All right.
Kind of looks like him. You could picture, hey, look, just close your eyes for 1 second and picture Dennis Quaid in Indiana Jones's gear. Not so hard, right? You could see him to an extent. You could almost see Dennis Quaid as Han Solo, but he's just where let's just say Harrison Ford was, the target. You know, he's Target. He's Walmart. Dennis Quaid is kind of like Five Below. You know,
well, he's dime store
Harrison
Ford.
Yeah. And the other thing about Dennis Quaid in this movie is, I don't know if you read this or not, Lloyd, but
I know where you're going.
Admittedly, a huge cocaine fiend. He had a huge problem. He wrote a book, and in the book he says there is, what is it? The quote: every frame of Jaws 3D, I am as high on cocaine as you could possibly be.
He looks wired. You know, there's a scene that comes to mind where they're having breakfast in the kitchen there, and he's kind of like,
he's holding up the ears, right? And he's pouring coffee.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't think he needs coffee. He's wired.
Yeah.
All right. So, you'll know Dennis Quaid from lots of movies. One of my favorites was Enemy Mine. With Lou Gossett Jr. Frequency, another favorite of mine. Frequency.
Great.
Yeah. I don't think I ever put together the Enemy Mine Jaws 3. That these are the same two guys. I know it is, but I've never put that together that they did both of those movies together.
All right.
Dennis
So
great. It's about everything he does. He's great in.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we have Bess Armstrong as Kay Morgan, his girlfriend. She's basically the marine biologist of the park. Like I said, Mike's girlfriend. And to me, she's kind of like the archetype of all future SeaWorld trainers ever that will ever appear in another movie.
Yeah.
No.
And you can instantly recognize her, but I couldn't tell you a single thing she's in. She's just got that
her IMDb.
fresh-faced, sort of all-American look.
Yeah. She's in a whole bunch of stuff I don't watch, but she's done a lot of work.
The only movie that I ever remember her in from when I was a kid, and it wasn't a movie that I don't even know if I ever saw it, but it was like maybe on HBO and I saw bits of it, was a Tom Selleck movie called High Road to China, where he was a pilot.
Right.
He was like the girl in that. She is Bess Armstrong. Watching this and not having seen her in a long time and only really knowing her from this, she is the human actress equivalent of a glass of warm water. She's there. If you're thirsty, it's going to keep you alive. But otherwise, that's it. She's, you know what I mean? She does. If she disappeared in the middle of this movie, right? If her character stopped showing up in the 25 to 35 minute mark, I would not have noticed that she stopped being in this movie.
Exactly. Yeah, she's a TV actress. She did a lot of TV in the 80s and 90s. So
yeah.
Definitely didn't carry, like, she didn't have that cinematic presence to her at all.
No, not at all.
Very cute though. Very cute girl.
Yeah,
very attractive woman right now. You look her up. She's a very attractive woman.
You see that, Lloyd? Her
yeah.
Figure? Yeah, she's still. Yeah.
So next we have possibly my favorite guy, Simon McCorkindale.
Okay.
As
I got something. I got something for Simon McCorkindale. Okay.
He needs a better stage name.
Yeah. So here's my
Guvna.
Here's my note for Simon McCorkindale. This is Manimal, by the way. If you're Manimal, right? The TV show. Simon McCorkindale is the guy they would hire if they ever made a syndicated James Bond TV show in the 80s. So,
oh my God, yeah.
He would never be able to be Bond in the movies, but if they said we're going to have like a weekly syndicated Bond TV show, Simon McCorkindale is like syndicated James Bond. That's what.
Crap.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Again, a TV actor.
Yeah.
I could see him as the replacing. I forget the actor's name on the A-Team. He played Face.
Oh, Dirk Benedict.
Yeah, Dirk Benedict. Yeah. Same kind of deal.
Well, he was in the Poltergeist TV series.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah.
That's right. I read that.
So, Lloyd, real quick, who did he play? Because I have a question about this character. I want you guys to teach me.
Teach you?
Well, I want to know, who did he play, Lloyd? What was the character?
I'm sorry. In this movie, he played Philip Fitzroyce.
Okay, so here's what I want to know from you guys. What the fuck is his profession? Is he a hunter? Is he a photographer? What is Keith? Give it to me. What the fuck is this guy?
I'm glad you brought this up because we must have been thinking the same thing watching.
Right.
First, I thought he was kind of like a crocodile hunter kind of guy.
Yeah.
Then I'm thinking, well, Crocodile Dundee kind of guy. But no, then I'm thinking, well, maybe he's an adventure photographer for like National Geo. But I don't know. I mean, he knew a lot about like animal wrangling, and he knew a lot about combat, and he knew a lot about photography. So I don't know. Maybe he's just one of these mercs with a camera. I don't know.
Yeah, merc with a camera. His entire like being in this movie, like, stupefied me. And then we'll get to it in a second, but his relationship with, I don't know, Jocko or whatever the fuck that guy's name was, was just even more stupefying.
Weird. Yeah. He called him Guvna.
Guvna. He's kind of there for exposition dumps and like to explain to the audience what's happening here.
Yeah.
Nobody else in the movie knows what's happening.
Yeah.
Even the marine biologist is perplexed to a point.
Yeah, and he was big on Falcon Crest, by the way. All right, so then we have the incomparable Lou Gossett Jr. As Calvin Bouchard, basically the director of SeaWorld. You'll know him from Officer and a Gentleman, Roots, Enemy Mine, along with Dennis Quaid. And most recently, which I loved, the Watchmen HBO series. He played
that's right.
Justice.
You're right. I forgot he was in that. Yeah. My favorite part about Calvin Bouchard in this movie is that I can't determine his accent. So when he's like in
French,
well, no, it's when he's like in business mode, seems like he's just speaking in a normal tone. But then there's the scene. So, it's like, he says something, he's like, nephew, and he's kind of got this attitude almost. But then there's the scene where the accident happens and he gets on the microphone, excuse me, SeaWorld. It's like, he suddenly is like a Southern gentleman.
Totally, right.
I don't know.
I think he was an amalgamation of, corporate, all kinds of corporate entities and of the time. I mean, I would compare him to I don't know who was in charge of Disney in '83. I don't think it was Michael Eisner yet. Maybe it was. It was that kind of thing because he kept changing. You're right. He kept turning into a different person for whatever the scene needed him to be.
Yeah, as required.
It was they tried to vilify him at points because we're keeping the park open or trap that thing in there and we're gonna blow it up. Well, he didn't want to blow it up, but he was gonna kill it some other way.
He's heartless one minute, and then the next minute he's worried about all the customers and everyone's safety.
Yeah, right.
All right, who else we got?
To make him a little bit of the mayor.
What did you guys think of that line he had towards the end of the movie where he's talking about the bubbles that keep the things out, and he kind of makes a joke. He goes, "Oh, let's call that the ring of segregation." Did you notice that?
I did not. No,
I thought that was a unique line.
Did you guys notice in this movie that there was 2 different times that 2 different characters explained how those vents worked in the exact same dialogue? There's a scene where early on where someone asks how they're going to trap the shark, if it'll work if they trap the shark in the vent, and someone's like, well, those vents are a mile long, and blah, blah, and says this whole thing. And then later in the movie at the end, when Fitzroyce is going to do what he does with the vents, Mike Brody says the same line of dialogue that another character, he's like, well, the vent is easily a mile and the back pressure. And I'm like, does the screenwriter realize that he wrote the same fucking line to a T 2 times?
Just reminding the audience is all.
That it was a first draft script is what they're reminding us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we get to John Putch as Sean Brady, who is Brody, who is Mike's kid brother. He is Bob Morton from One Day at a Time, who I instantly remembered when I saw him. If you remember, that was Valerie Bertinelli's kind of awkward, weird friend. Also, he was in The Sure Thing and a few other things, but not a very long.
He was in The Great Men at Work with Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez. He was one of the cops that they stripped down to their underwear and chained them to each other on the merry-go-round. He is also, this is a little trivia factoid, the son of Gene Stapleton. Archie Bunker's wife.
I didn't even know that. No.
Yep.
Okay. Archie.
I
see he directed some Scrubs episodes as well in the American Pie sequel.
Oh, there's another one, by the way. I went to Walmart the other day and direct to DVD. There's another. I thought they stopped. There's another American Pie, I don't know, Flute Pussy or something. I don't know.
American Pie 22.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's great at the bar game standoff.
What was that? What the fuck was all that?
Ridiculous.
There was. Yeah.
That scene. There's a scene.
I've never played that game in my life. I never even heard of it.
Me either.
Yeah.
I think they tried to make him. He was the ladies' man kind of guy and the young hip kid, and it just they did not stick the landing, folks.
Well, he doesn't really pull that off.
No, he doesn't pull it off, and he's got. John brought it up earlier. He's got no reason to even be in this movie. I kept waiting. I'd forgotten what it was. I hadn't seen it since theater. I was waiting for him to be Shark Chum, is what I thought would happen to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he does exactly what I said I thought Bess Armstrong could have done. He disappears with 30 minutes left.
He does, right.
Just disappears. And I know what they're trying to do. The whole scene in this movie where the shark gets into, kind of into the actual, where it's terrorizing people, right. And he gets involved, and Mike is driving around like a fucking cocaine cowboy, bumper boats and everything. He's trying to get people out of the water, trying to be very reminiscent of Brody, get out of the water, that whole thing. And that's exactly what they were trying to do. They were trying to make that whole event seem like the Lagoon event in the first Jaws, because in the first Jaws, right after the Lagoon event, all these other characters disappear, and then we focus on our 3 main characters. And they're trying the same thing here. It's just the difference is that Fitzroyce and Mike Brody and Bess Armstrong and Louis Gossett Jr. are not Hooper, Quint, and and Brody.
It only works when you actually care about the characters that are left.
Right. Perfect. Yeah, I like that. All right, so moving on, we have the really, really beautiful Lea Thompson.
God.
Another
As
staple of the 80s. Yeah.
Kellyanne Bukowski, who is a member of the water skiing team at SeaWorld. And also, I guess, the girl he was trying to get in bed with. Man, does she look good in a bikini.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I must sound like a perv right now, but man, oh man. Lea Thompson was so good looking back then.
She still is.
And now, yeah, again, another beautiful older woman.
Yeah. She's
mature woman.
She was certainly in the 80s one of my big crushes. So every movie she was in for the most part in the 80s, she was in a lot. So I was able to see her in Jaws 3 and
right. All the Right Moves.
All the Right Moves I didn't see when I was a kid. Howard the Duck.
Right, Howard the Duck.
Red
Some
Dawn.
Kind of Wonderful.
Yeah.
I think we're missing another one there. Well, maybe. Back to the Future.
Yeah. Back to the Future. Yep. She's just beautiful. She's so beautiful. And she's so great looking in this. And
but she has no purpose in this movie at all.
No, well, her whole purpose is to be bitten by the shark. Is she the only victim of the shark that doesn't die? Because yeah.
And
I guess
it's a
I would say
35-foot shark, and it just takes a little nibble.
Just bites her on the leg.
Yep.
Just enough so she goes in the ambulance and lives a full, long life.
That's the scene where they get rid of Sean. He goes in the ambulance, and that's it.
That's it. Yep. Those two characters, unnecessary, and we just flushed them out.
Who saw Howard the Duck in the theater? This guy.
I did not.
No, not me.
I did.
Well, all right. I'll go with one more here to put an end to this misery. P.H. Moriarty as Jack Tate.
Don't you mean P.H. Moriarty, Governor?
That's exactly what I mean, Governor. Yeah, he was basically Fitzroy's handler, I guess.
Fitzroy,
whatever the hell he was.
P.H. Moriarty is the most British guy in Britain. He's currently eating an eel and jelly pie while going to a cricket match down by the docks.
Oh, man. He was...
What's that?
In Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen that in a long time.
Also, he was in Quadrophenia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. He has the best scene in this whole movie. The most I don't get what happens here. And I don't know whether to applaud it or not understand it. So he is Fitzroy's right-hand man, right? He's there. He's Flavor Flav to Fitzroy's Chuck D. When Fitzroy says something like, that's a 35-foot shark, and then P.H. Moriarty goes, yeah, boy. He's just like, that's what he's there for in this whole movie. He's simply there just to go, pull it up on him, Chuck. Pull it up on him, Chuck. Obviously, these guys have like a close working relationship, but were they being progressive in 1983 in maybe making us think that they had more than that? Because man, oh man, does he freak out when Fitzroy doesn't come out of the water. Like that whole scene, again, hey, look, if they're implying, which could just be me reading into it, that there was more going on there, good for them. Hey, 1983, you get progressive. But did either of you find that scene? So let me just tell you real quick. Fitzroy goes in the water. He's going to try. He's using himself as bait along with Moriarty. He ends up backing into the shark's mouth by accident.
Every victim backed into the shark's mouth.
That the shark is sneaking up on people.
Yeah.
The shark doesn't physically attack anybody. They all just slide into his mouth.
Yeah.
off screen. That's how it all happens.
So Moriarty slides into the maw of our 35-foot shark. Okay. I'm sorry. Fitzroy slides into the mouth. He ends up, he has a grenade. Sorry. He's about to pull the pin on the grenade, and the shark gums him to death. It just crushes him.
You hear what seems like chewing sounds.
Yeah.
I think it's just Fitzpatrick's bones crushing.
Yeah. He basically crushes him.
His rib cage snapping.
His lungs blow up, blood in the water.
I was laughing when I was watching it, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's ridiculous.
The jaws the shark in every case is like, I'm just gonna nuzzle up to you, open my mouth, and
wait
you just come on in, and then I will back away.
You're right.
Yeah, it is definitely a strange
God.
series of events in Jaws 3. Fitzroyce doesn't come out of the water because he's stuck in the fucking shark's mouth. Moriarty gets what's his name in the movie?
Fitzpatrick. No, Fitzroyce.
No. The other guy, Moriarty.
The Moriarty guy. Jack Tate.
Jack Tate. Jack Tate gets out of the water and he starts getting undone from the scuba gear and says to the SeaWorld guy, he says, where's me Guvna? And the guy's like, he never came out. He goes immediately to, no, he could still be in the water. He could be behind him. He goes immediately to, me Guvna's dead. And he starts screaming and climbs down a ladder and then he starts, now, maybe we didn't sell this. This is like a rough and tumble soccer hooligan looking motherfucker. He's like got like a gray eye. I think they're trying to give him a little character, like he's probably got stabbed in the eye. He's a rough dude. He's a limey, and he's like bellowing and crying on the ladder. Oh, Guvna! No, Guvna! And I just thought, this is the weirdest script and or acting choice ever. I give him credit, but I don't know what they were going for there.
I did feel some of the homoeroticism, if you want to say that. There was the tension.
Yeah.
I also interpreted it as maybe that Fitzroyce was his understudy. This guy's probably a decade or more older.
Yeah.
He might have actually brought this guy along and showed him his chops, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Together like that, like an apprentice and master kind of thing.
You know how in a good movie they would have told us that.
Well,
with
exactly, right.
with even a fucking line.
Right. One bit of exposition, thanks.
Hey, Calvin, you want to meet me apprentice? It's Fitzroyce. He's going to be me. Oh, look at that. Audience knows.
Right. I know who he is now.
Now we know who he is.
Explain who the Brodies were to us and how they're traumatized from a shark attack like 6 times.
Yeah.
Right.
Someone asked me when I mentioned I was watching Jaws 3. Might have been Scary Larry. He might have texted me and I said, I'm watching Jaws 3 for the show. And he says, I haven't seen that in forever. Do they ever reference the first movie? And I said, yeah, like 9 fucking times.
In the first 10 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, in the first 10 minutes, like, yeah, we don't go in the water because my dad had a thing with a shark. And yeah, we don't go in the water. Except Mike goes in the water like a motherfucker. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
No, Sean don't go in. He don't even take baths or showers.
No, yes. Sean just like
he just gets the baby powder and some dry soap.
It's all baby powder. It's that's why Lea Thompson didn't want to fucking sleep with him.
Right.
He smells like a cheese factory.
I did like the line where Lea Thompson got him to go in the water, and they go like skinny dipping.
Yes.
And then Dennis Quaid and Bess Armstrong show up, and they're watching, and she says, the power of the diet, but he got in the water. I can't believe it.
Yeah. 1983 Lea Thompson. Yeah, I would probably get in the water too if I survived the events. Look, let's be honest. Sean in Jaws, he was on the fucking beach making a sandcastle.
4. Yeah.
He was 4. Yeah.
Didn't remember that.
He was in Jaws 2, he was in the water, but who knows if they even if Jaws 2 happened in this movie. You know how movies work.
So she gets them in the water, skinny dipping there, and they're swimming. And then, the next day, she wants to go on the bumper boats, and he's back to, I don't go in the water. It's the same thing over again.
He only goes in the water if there's a chance.
Didn't get that pee.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's got a new rule now. His new rule now is, I'll go in the water if your pussy is exposed. Other than that, I'm not going in the water. So if we're in a bumper boat and your vagina can't be out so I can get to it, I'm not going in the water. That's his new rule.
Right.
All right, so I know that we can hit a lot of dislikes on this, but I want to start with Manster and go to Keith, and then I'll go to myself. I want you to just give us a few things that you actually honestly liked about this movie. Manster, is there anything you can surmise or sum up that you enjoyed about Jaws 3D, aka Jaws 3?
This is hard. All right, but so without sounding like a perv, I already said I like Lea Thompson in a bikini. All right, so that's probably the number 1 on the list. First half of this movie is actually watchable. Before you see any of the horrible effects, it's actually a watchable movie. Like, you're a little bit interested to see what's going to happen, but that falls apart. I don't know if this is a positive or what, but The film, it's so filled with incompetence, with the music, the score is terrible, the effects, the editing, the story, that it distracts you from realizing that the acting is really bad too.
Oh, yeah. The acting's terrible.
Like I said, I don't know if any of these are likes, but and here's a funny little thing that I read somewhere, and I thought it was funny enough to repeat it here. The villainous shark at the center of Jaws 3D is formidable enough to smash its way through an entire amusement park before getting stuck in an underwater DJ booth like a cat with its head in a Pringles can.
Yeah.
I can't come up with anything that I liked, really.
All right, Keith, what do you got?
A couple of things. I can see your point, Lloyd, that the beginning is actually watchable, except that it's very slow. I mean,
right,
ridiculously slow, and there's no character development. Nothing. What did I like? Oh boy, yeah, not a lot. Dennis Quaid, he's trying.
Right. He was also flying.
flying and trying. I think the overall premise wasn't horrible. It was something different. They took it away from Amity Island. They put it in a completely different place in a different, scenario completely, which I think was admirable. The execution, though, I mean, you've got a cast basically full of bad 80s TV actors. Like Lloyd said, bad score, horrible direction. The effects were so bad. Like when they're in the control room and they're looking at the screen, and they couldn't even pin register the composite right. So the screen's moving all over the place. It's moving. Their obsession with 3D affected the pacing horribly because
absolutely.
Like, look at the first shot when the fish gets eaten and the head just floats at the screen for about 30 minutes.
Oh my God. It's the dismembered fish head, and it's we got to show that it's like still
the death convulsion.
Yeah. So it's just like pulsating, its mouth open, and you're like, oh, I can imagine this being a cool effect in 3D in 1983, except it feels like it's like 7 minutes long.
Yeah, and every time they did those deliberate 3D things, like when the arm came floating and everything, the pacing completely slows to a point where they're just like, look how cool this looks with your glasses on. And, maybe if they wanted to make a 2D version, they should have kind of cut those out. They should just re-edit it and shorten those scenes because it's really a drag to watch.
All right.
And it affected the direction and everything because, you have they're scuba diving and they got to point their equipment into the camera, and all those deliberate 3D gags were just, not nauseating.
They don't play at all in 2D.
They were so overt, and they don't play.
Wait a minute, we didn't get to our dislikes, did we?
Yeah, we pretty much, let's just be honest, we're just floating into the dislikes now.
Yeah. Right, we're just backing into the mouth of the dislikes, really.
Yes, yeah.
And there's another one, the shark going backward, I was like, boop, boop, boop. Like, they can't. I think that's scientifically impossible.
It is.
They can go backwards, their gills they'll suffocate, right?
They can't go backwards.
Right, yeah.
How about you, John? Any likes?
Okay, so I like, again, not to sound gross, 23-year-old Lea Thompson in a bikini. I'm hoping she was 23, so I don't sound super gross. I like the feeling of watching this movie, which I have not seen in a long time, and the nostalgia it makes me feel for wanting to see it in 1983. So that's entirely has nothing to do with the movie. That just has to do with my personal feelings. Like, this reminds me of 1983. I was 8 in 83. So 83 to me was there's a lot of things in 83. I think that was when I was just coming into the age where I'm, getting to know what I love. So there's just that. There's the nostalgia of seeing the Jaws 3D posters in a movie theater, stuff like that. But the actual movie itself, the only things it has going for it positively are the fact that the negative stuff is funny. So
okay, yeah, I get that.
It's bad, and I'll say this right off the bat: this is not one of those movies that's so bad it's good. It is not. No. But there are a couple of touchstone moments from the badness that are really like, okay, the scene where Bouchard and Brody and I think Bess Armstrong's character, they're in the restaurant and they all see the shark. You could see them all start to notice the shark, and it's from the shark's point of view, and you see them getting up from the table and pointing.
That was actually a cool shot. Yeah.
That was kind of a cool shot, right?
I'll give you that, yeah.
But it's corny at the same time. And, you cannot lose with that final scene of that CGI shark slowly approaching the glass port to the what did you call it? What did you call it?
Underground DJ booth.
Underground DJ booth.
Or underwater DJ booth.
Yeah, underwater. So as it's coming, I think maybe one of you sent it to me, but I've seen it before. The meme that says there are a ton of people out there that think the moon landing was CGI, and then it uses that picture of the shark and says this was CGI in 1983.
Right.
Because, it's this incredibly, if you've never seen it before, it's this incredibly, terribly horrible fake shark.
I got to wonder if...
It doesn't move. It doesn't.
Does the 3D give it the appearance of movement?
No.
No, not at all.
I remember going, that looks awful in the theater. I didn't know how they accomplished that effect. I just knew it looked bad.
Yeah.
Well,
it reminded me of the old Marvel cartoons in the 60s where they had like cardboard characters on popsicle sticks and moved them in and out of the frame.
Right.
That's kind of what it looked like.
That goes right to the very first dislike on my list.
All right, let's move. Let's just go immediately to let's go to your dislikes, Lloyd. Let's go to your dislikes.
Right. I have a very long list. I don't know if you want to go through them all, but anyway.
Let's do some.
Yeah, we'll do some. The shark doesn't actually move. The shark itself, there's no movement, okay? It doesn't attack anybody. It doesn't bite anybody. It just lurks. It's like someone's got a foam shark in the water and they're just foaming, or they're just filming that, next to something that somebody's pushing or turning, or it's got some kind of mechanical thing.
It's fairly amazing.
Move in the water. It does not move.
Right. It's totally amazing that in 1983, so let's say that this was filmed, like I said, in 82. Jaws was filmed in 74. Is that 8 years? 8 years later, how is this shark worse? And this goes on because the shark in Jaws 4 is fucking terrible too. How is it worse than it was 8 years ago? But it is.
Don't know. All right. So the next one is a bunch of these are about sharks. Sharks don't, to my knowledge, if something doesn't have lungs, it cannot roar. Right?
I'm going to say the roar. I know.
Sharks can't roar. They can't back up. And they don't just expect their prey to swim into their mouth.
Yeah.
All right.
Keith, wait, real quick. Keith, what is the noise a backing up shark makes again?
Oh, I just, when I was watching, I heard the truck beeper in my head. When it's coming out of that tube, it went in the tube and then it smashed the cage door, and it backed out. I was dying. I was like, this is ridiculous.
Right. And in the chewing, there's a lot of scenes with chewing sounds.
There's a lot of bone crunching.
Right, a lot of bone crunching, a lot of chewing. I think sharks basically just swallow. They swim up, gulp it, and swallow it down.
Yeah, bite it in half and swallow it.
Right. All right, so now moving beyond the shark, the 3D stuff doesn't translate to a flat 2D film. The film quality is so murky. It's just really bad. Oh, I do have another shark things. I don't think sharks actually ram things.
No, yeah.
I might not be a shark expert, but I know that sharks do have sensitive noses.
Right,
they even tell you, hey,
shark
punch a
attack,
shark
punch
in the nose.
Right. Yeah.
But sharks don't constantly ram things with their nose, all right? They just don't, and why would you write that into a script? There's a scene where the shark's going through the park when Brody's, yelling and stuff, and he goes under a dock, or he goes near a dock. I don't think he really goes into that dock, but people fall on the dock, and they fall directly through the dock. The dock boards break.
Oh, yeah.
And they fall through it. I've been on a lot of docks. I've never felt one that was so unsafe that if I slipped, I would break the dock and go through. All right, that was just another ridiculous thing. I got to leave some for you guys. Yeah, I'll leave you guys the rest.
All right. Keith, what do you got?
That's That's hard. Lloyd took all the good ones. The shark roar was one I was going to bring up. That was the first time it happened. I said, was that a roar, or were they trying to like emphasize that how fast he was swimming? It was the water rushing past it. But then it kept roaring every time you saw it. It was ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, the special effects, again, I mentioned all the pin registrations were off when they were compositing shots. The acting was just awful. Everything, the pacing. I already kind of said all this. I blew it because they were supposed to be my likes, and I accidentally stumbled into a lot of the technical dislikes. But what else can you say? I did like, now that I'm thinking about it, the idea of the baby shark, and they put it in captivity, and that was kind of interesting to me. And then, how she deduces that, oh crap, there's two of them in here. One's the mother. This is just the baby. And I like the scene where it died. That was actually the whole movie, I think, where
that felt real
emotion there. It felt real when that shark died and she jumps in and they can't save it. That's the one time in the movie I felt like affected by the story, or I cared at all.
Yeah, you're right. I wish I had picked up on that, Keith. I would have put that in my likes. Yeah.
Sorry to do it opposite on you there, John.
That's okay.
It just dawned on me. The biggest problem is that 35-foot shark, and the fact that it sneaks up on people. It can roar, but yet it sneaks up on people. So it was just overall a hackneyed mess.
All right, I'll go. I want to throw this into my likes when I was talking about a couple of the things that were so bad they were good. One of the greatest scenes in this movie is when the people are in the underwater kingdom, and the girl's looking out the porthole, and the head of the Shelby, underwater welder who has been skinned alive by the shark. The head of comes up to the porthole, and that scene, on its own,
so reminiscent, right?
Yeah, that scene on its own can kind of, if you stop it there, actually you could look at it as going, that's pretty frightening. That would suck,
right?
But then it immediately has the bit where everybody starts to panic, and she gets smushed against the porthole, and it's like she's kissing him, and it seems like for a second that someone went, "Oh, this is fucking hilarious. Keep it in." Like, it's her face is against one side of the porthole, and his dead head's on the other side. They undercut any tension in that scene by leaving that last bit in.
You're right.
I forgot about that too. That the shark meticulously skins that man alive.
Yeah.
It's like the Predator, like just.
I think the shark maybe swallowed him up, or and then
gummed him.
Just sort of spit him out without the skin. I think that's what happened.
One of his arms was still attached, but just a bone. Like it took him. Like I would take a buffalo wing and strip it of meat and leave it.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
But the shark has no fucking arms. The shark's got little fins. It can't
pushing it out with his tongue.
Right. It can't hold him and strip his arm. It would just bite the fucking arm off. Yeah. You're absolutely
not a man eater. He's just a flesh eater.
Yeah. This is just a flesh eating shark. I'm not as much of an amateur ichthyologist as Lloyd, but I looked this up because I thought I knew this, and I did look this up. Sharks aren't protective of their young either. So the idea that this shark is, wreaking vengeance on SeaWorld for killing its bebe is bullshit. Now we get further into that in Jaws the Revenge, because then this shark in Jaws the Revenge follows them to the Bahamas because it hates his family because it killed 3 other sharks in 3 other movies. So,
or if you count the baby.
Yeah, you're right. 4 sharks at this point. Yeah, there's not a lot to like about this movie. I had not seen it in a long time.
I left you the dolphin stuff.
Oh, fucking Cindy and Sandy, those 2 motherfuckers.
I can't believe I forgot. How about the bad composite shot at the end?
Yeah, so at the very end of the movie, this movie ends like a Universal horror film. It just ends, right? So we don't know what happens to the Louis Gossett Jr. character. We assume he's okay. But Mike and Bess Armstrong, can't even think of her name, Kay. They utilize dead TV Bond's grenade to blow the shark up. They blow the shark up. Interesting fact.
He's stuck in the shark's mouth.
In the shark's mouth with his arm
turned around
out
the opposite way that he went in.
Yeah. arm sticking out.
Grenade, just in case somebody happens to come by. They can pull the pin.
Mike fashions a coat hanger type device to pull the pin. And here's an interesting factoid. Out of all 4 Jaws movies, this is the only Jaws movie where the shark is killed underwater. It's killed above water in every other movie, or on the surface in every other movie. So the movie pretty much ends, and we didn't even talk about the dolphins. There's these 2 trained dolphins that are essentially Bess Armstrong's best friends in this movie, and they attack the shark at the end. There's a scene where they're ramming the shark, which that scene was kind of cool to think, these dolphins are trying to help out.
The sharks are afraid of dolphins.
Yeah,
yes.
They will attack them.
Yes.
The dolphins will attack the sharks.
So that was apparently the marine biologist on duty showed up that day to tell them that.
True scientific fact they could put in the movie.
Yeah. They're like, I think, look at this. Dolphins do
it. Shark that
sharks.
backs up, so if we put the dolphins in there, it offsets it.
Yeah, people won't notice the shark making the beeping sound. They're not going to notice that. But yeah, at the very end, like Keith just said, everybody's happy. They're at the top of the water. One of the dolphins pops back up. They're worried the other dolphin's dead. The other dolphin shoots out of the water. Very heroic moment. And this is all real. These dolphins are really popping around. And then the movie does that typical 80s freeze at the end credits where it's, Mike and Kay. What's that? Yeah. It's Mike and Kay in the water and they're smiling. And then for some reason they use like proto CGI dolphins popping out of both sides of the water and freezing there, along with everything else in this movie. It's the fakest looking shit ever.
They're like orange or something. They're not even the right color.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the fakest scene in the movie. Probably even more fake than the shark coming and smashing through the window.
Yeah. Oof.
Oh.
Yeah, there's.
And how about the tension? So when they're escaping, this is before they get into the DJ booth. They escape into that. What would you call it? Airlock.
Oh yeah, right.
Right.
And they're both in there, Mike and Kay. And then you see a shark tooth kind of sticking through the door.
Yeah.
A crooked, just a crooked shark tooth, nothing else really.
The shark stops them
the door on it.
The airlock by jamming one of its teeth in the door.
And they're just slamming the door on the.
And then when they finally slam the door shut and the water lowers, they're both like, "Oh!" Like they just went through some harrowing moment, which was just hilarious.
All right, so I think we've pretty much proved there's not a lot nice to say. So I think before,
like the subplot that Mike was taking a job in Venezuela and she wasn't sure she could leave the dolphins.
What the fuck was that all about?
Oh.
There's so much exposition in this movie about shit that
goes nowhere.
It goes nowhere. Another thing, did you guys notice this? So earlier in the movie, when they go to the bar and they're there with Lea Thompson and John Putsch, that scene ends, they leave the bar, and it's daytime.
Yes.
But then when Lea Thompson and John Putsch go to fuck in the water, which is minutes later, it's nighttime again.
Right.
And then
notice
it's like it's like, isn't Keith, you're involved in filmmaking. You've done many things. Who is the person in charge of like going, oh shit, that doesn't match. We gotta who is the person on a film that has to go, we can't put this together. It's day here and night here.
It should be a continuity person that watches for things like that. But the third Dark Knight movie had that exact thing happen at the stock exchange. They go there when the stock exchange opens, rob the place, and they walk out, and then they get in the chase, and Batman comes. It's pitch black. It's night all of a sudden. The same thing happened.
Well, I'm sure you could name 1,000 movies.
Yeah,
right?
there's 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
But, as Ed Wood used to say, those are the little details. No one will see that. It's the big picture that matters.
I'm assuming that Dennis Quaid probably gave the continuity guy like a little baggie at some point.
There's websites dedicated to that.
A day for night shot somewhere in there too. It was obvious.
Yeah.
With the 4 of them, I think they were all laughing and goofing after they got out of the water. I think it was right around there, somewhere in that bar, skinny dipping area of the movie.
All right.
Parts that I was fighting to stay awake through.
Let's give our ratings. And then I have some of our friends from the Twitter community out there. I've got some of their ratings too, but let's get ours out of the way because I'm pretty sure ours might be pretty cut and dry. I'll go first, and we'll go to Manster, and we'll leave our guest Keith for the end. It's pretty simple. Jaws 3, Jaws 3D, Jaws Roman numeral 3, whatever you want to call it. Jaws Trace in Spain. This is out of the Triple T. This is truly trash. This movie, before we did this episode and before I watched it, I said to myself, there is a good chance because of nostalgic reasons, this will be tolerable to me. I'll watch it and go, yeah, you know what? Not good, but there's enough in there that makes it tolerable. If I had to watch this again a year from now, I could sit through it if I had to. No, fuck no. Please no. Jaws 3D, go fuck yourself. You're trash. I can't see you anymore. You know what? I'm going to bring your stuff from your drawer in my apartment, and I'm going to bring it back to you. I'll leave it on the hood of your car tomorrow night, and then we don't have to talk ever again. Manster, are you also going to break up with Jaws 3?
Well, I'll tell you this. If you're really into just horrible effects, bad writing, bad editing, bad score, maybe this is your thing. But this is just a hot, heaping pile of stinky, smelly trash. Yeah, we're breaking up.
All right.
Never want to see him again.
Him. No, it's fine, Lloyd. This is Jaws 3 is an asexual predator.
That's right.
Keith, how do you feel?
Well, first, I learned something today. I learned that I'm glad I never dated you, because that's a harsh breakup, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt the same as you. I was hoping that I knew it was going to be campy. I wasn't expecting, cinema gold, but I thought it would be fun. When I saw it at 14, I didn't hate it. I just thought it was okay. My brother was your age. He was 8, and he went with me. He was terrified. Yeah, it's trash. It's incompetent. It's not even one of those, it's so bad it's good. It's not one of those bad movie showcase nights you have crack a 6-pack and laugh. It's just bad. It's borderline unwatchable.
That's right.
Because it takes itself far too seriously, and I think that's the problem. It's Jaws 3, people 0.
That's right.
Yes, it is true. It is true.
If this was ever a Saturday night Connecticut Cult Classics watch party, I would be sorely disappointed.
Yeah. Well, but the community aspect can jump it a little bit. Like I'll always have fond memories of Jaws 3D because we did this episode. But other than that, there's no redeeming quality to the movie itself. So
right. We probably should have said this up front, but we're now about an hour and a half into this podcast. You could spend an hour and a half listening to us and have a much better time than spending an hour and a half watching this movie.
Yeah, that's true.
But there's not one single redeeming thing where you said, oh, that was good. Like the closest thing is the death of the baby shark.
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost a lesson they should show in film schools, like how not to make a big studio film.
It literally, nothing happens in this movie, and even the shark attacks, nothing happens. It's just not good. All right, let me read off a couple of our friends here and see what they had to say. So I posited the question, basically trash, tolerable, or treasure. Arguing with myself, our buddy Chris, I think it falls somewhere between trash and tolerable. It's that trashy kind of film that you're drawn to, but it's like chum in the water. Dino from podcast put down, it's a special kind of treasure for sure. And I happen to know that Dino does enjoy this movie, so he actually gives it a treasure. The guys over at the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, tolerable, but with some beverages first. Our buddy Shane at Media Mosh, great podcast, good friend of ours. Treasure. I remember watching it in 3D and really liked it. Plus, Louis Gossett Jr. and Dennis Quaid put it over for me. And one more, and this is a ringer. There's an account called Jaws 3D. It says treasure for sure, and it is at Romain, ROMAIN, Jaws 3D. That's the Twitter account, and it looks like it's some fan of Jaws 3D. He has a website, jaws-3d.com. So this guy loves this movie. If you go to the website, you immediately see the poster right there. So go check it out. Let's end that right there. Let's get into Keith. Let's stop talking about Jaws 3D before my stomach turns. So Keith, what is going on with podcasting? Tell us all about it.
We have rebranded as the Geek Time Network. We had a little small kerfuffle. So we kind of shuffled things around, and I was thinking about, it's kind of weird. I was just thinking about a whole bunch of things one day at the gym, and it popped into my head. And I was thinking that we should separate what we do video-wise from what we do with the podcast. And there might even be different people doing different things specific to those two. So I split it. So we have Geek Time TV, Geek Time Radio, under the umbrella of Geek Time Network. So, and we'll still do blogs and all kinds of stuff like that. But it kind of frees everybody up to do what they want now, too. So we don't have to we had a little problem with different philosophies. With so many people on the show. Scheduling and philosophies became a problem. So we're just kind of freeing everybody up. If they want to stay, fine. If they don't, that's fine, too. But now they can kind of feel free to do what they want. And the podcast will be more evergreen, and we'll do more like what you guys do and just talk about topics that don't have a specific time frame attached to them.
Right.
We're getting Pizza Pop Culture. We got kind of stuck where we were doing headlines, but then the show comes out 3 weeks later and it's like, that's old news, man. So, and we'll do like a weekly live stream discussion show to do that. So that's what we're doing. Pizza and Pop Culture still exists under Geek Time Radio. And I left it open to the pizza guys. If they want to keep doing it, they're welcome to. If they don't, that's fine too. It'll just live there the way it was. So that's what we're doing.
I want to say this, Keith. I'm a fan of pizza and pop culture. I'm looking forward to Geek Time a lot. And this is not a joke. I really enjoyed the show. You guys did, at the end of Pizza and Pop Culture, you guys did a 3-part series on Kiss. And I'm a moderate Kiss fan. I like Kiss, but I'm not you. I'm not dressing up like fucking Paul Stanley and going to concerts. Those 3 episodes were 3 of the best podcast episodes I've ever listened to, because you guys did such a good job of, I felt it was super informative. I felt like it was 3 mega fans, but you weren't blowing smoke up anybody's ass. You were being, hey, look, yes, I like this album nobody else liked, but they were garbage time. You one of the things I liked about it was all 3 of you were readily admitting, like, yeah, I wasn't even listening to him for those 3 years. Like, I was out of Kiss fandom. I like stuff like that, where it's not just like, any subject. I love this. I love this. I love this. You guys talked about how you love it, despite the fact that at the same time you see its flaws and you could really dislike things about it, and even drop out of the fandom totally, and then talk about what brought you back in. Those 3 episodes, Lloyd, if you have not heard them.
I haven't gotten that far, no.
Okay. I really try
to listen to everything, so once you start falling behind, it's like,
yeah, I know.
You don't want to, just delete stuff, but yeah, I'm getting there.
I do the same thing, and I never fell behind on pizza. So that means Geek Time is going to be during this recording. It has not come out yet, but once you start rolling, I am going to be very happy, because I've missed my little bills of you guys.
Well, I really appreciate it. Yeah. The Kiss ones were fun to do, and Mike Savinelli just crushed it. He was a great guest. He's really knowledgeable, and I thought anchored all 3 of those, to be honest with you. So thank you. We've gotten a lot of praise for those. We're shocked. I didn't think people would give a crap, but
I'm gonna have to fast forward. I'm gonna move right up to
episodes. They're, when you look at the downloads, they're some of the highest downloaded ones.
I guess when you do an episode like that, I see it on ours. Sometimes when we do an episode that focuses on something in particular, we get more downloads, because maybe it's something that more people want to hear about, as opposed to something else, they're all pretty close, but I see the jumps sometimes, and I realize, that's a niche that somebody's looking for. But yeah, those Kiss episodes, I mean, all the episodes, I loved them all. The Kiss episodes were so fucking good. I don't re-listen to podcasts, and I can picture myself going back and listening to those episodes again.
I've actually listened to all 3 of them twice myself because of Mike. I wanted to listen to what Mike said again.
Yeah.
I thought it was outstanding.
Nice.
I'd like to have him back on, because he's a music aficionado. I mean, he'd be great to talk about anything. In fact, I want to compliment you guys on that top 10 concert show you did.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
The whole time I'm thinking, I don't know if I could even rattle off 10 concerts. I'm a rare guy that when a concert's over, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go now.
Right.
It's very rare that I go, oh, that was so great. So, I was like, I could probably come up with 5, but 10? I mean, I've been to a billion, but I'm usually ready to go home at the end.
All right. Well,
I'm weird like
fair.
that.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Your own for sure.
Yeah, people are people.
Yeah. Look, that was 10. there's a lot of concerts that I went to that I really enjoyed that don't make that 10 list because they weren't. Those 10 were memorable.
Right.
There are other ones.
I wanted to talk about some that didn't make that list for a reason, you know?
Oh, we'll do that.
Like bottom 10.
I don't know if I could do bottom 10. I could do bottom
maybe
5.
Not 10. Yeah.
I could do 5 easily.
Yep.
I could do 5.
You guys would probably shit if I told you that top 3 for me is Barry Manilow.
Oh boy.
No, you know what? I've gotten to that point in my life a long time ago. What's the thing I've heard kids say nowadays? Live your truth. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you like it, you like it. And if it was good, hey, Sir John, you know, John does a show with us. We did an episode years ago of our old podcast, From the Hip, and we talked about something similar to this. And he came right out and said Rod Stewart was one of the best shows he ever went to.
The Barry Manilow thing, it was my ex at the time we were dating. We were in Vegas for a trade show, and Barry was playing. She's a fan of Low. So she made me go. And I'm thinking the whole time, like, oh, my God, I'm going to be, bleeding out. I'm going to cut my wrist. And it blew me away. It was so good. It was so good that the following year, I surprised her with Manilow tickets again because I wanted to go see it again.
She broke up with you right before, and you still went. You sat across both seats.
We were still happy at that time. She was shocked that I bought the tickets the second year. I told her we were actually driving into Vegas from LA, and I said, I'm not going to the – I work the trade show. I said, I'm not going to the training tonight. And she goes, why? And I said, because I got Manilow tickets.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, that is awesome.
Fantastic if you get a chance to see him.
My mom's seen him. One of my mom's favorites. She loves Barry Manilow. When I was a kid, I remember her going several times with my aunt, and when he'd play the Oakdale or somewhere local, she absolutely loved him. So
I thought of that when you guys on your show were talking about, like, sometimes you go to a show for free or whatever, and you're surprised. You're just blown away. You don't even want to be there. And then I thought immediately of that because I thought that was going to be the longest night of my life.
No, I don't laugh at stuff like that. Like I said, live your life. The idea of guilty pleasures to me doesn't exist anymore. Right. What's the point?
Right.
What's the point?
You like what you like.
It's just the truth, you know? That's all it is.
Tough.
When you get into your 40s, your mid 40s and beyond, you that's the point, I think, where you go, I don't care what people think anymore.
Yeah. That's where I've been for about 5 years. I'm about to hit 45, and since about the late 30s, I've just been like, you know what? If I like it, I like it.
Right.
Get off my back.
You don't have to apologize for that.
Nope. All right, Keith, let's get out of here. Is there any web information or sites or anything you want to send people to?
GeekTimeNetwork.com. I can't say the social because it's not set up yet, so I don't know what it's going to be.
All right,
I know there's
we'll link
Geek Time Network, so I'm going to have to figure that one out. But
we'll link it. No big deal.
Over the YouTube channel and whatnot. So it's all going to launch Monday.
Okay.
And I'm sacrificing 2 things. The Pizza Pop Culture YouTube channel is going to die on the vine. I'm taking my personal YouTube channel and that's becoming the Geek Time because we have almost 100 subscribers to a channel I haven't used in 6 years.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
So
that's
there's
perfect.
that. Starts there, and I'm sacrificing my Twitter account for the same reason.
Yeah, my Twitter. I killed my Twitter.
Yeah, I'm done. So, my personal Twitter will now be the show Twitter. And maybe I'll take the old Pizza Pop one and change the name and be just me and just incognito or whatever. But yeah, the social media. I watch The Social Dilemma and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. I'll just do it for the show and that's it. Have you watched that yet?
No, I have not seen that yet.
I haven't seen it.
You'll want to delete your social media afterward.
I've heard it's pretty rough.
It's rough. Yeah, it's rough. And you see it, I just want to read the news and all you see is hate, fuck you, hate, fuck you, hate. You can't even get to it's hard to find good stuff.
All right. So that's where you can find Keith with Geek Time coming up. Don't forget to check him out on all his endeavors. It's all great stuff, like I said. And where can you find us, Lloyd?
You can find us at planocomics.com. Read a lot of great articles and reviews. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all the podcatchers, basically. Go to the YouTube channel and click on the bell for notifications. You get some good, you get the podcast there and some good videos. And on social media, it's Pint O Comics on Facebook and Twitter. And on Instagram, it's at Pint_O_Comics. And you hear Sir John on the radio. Tune into WESU Middletown, 88.1 FM. on Sunday nights from 6:30 to 7:30. Stream the show at wesufm.org and on the TuneIn radio app.
Lloyd, what do you say as you slowly back yourself into the mouth of a 35-foot pissed off, appears out of nowhere shark?
Enchante, Guvna. See ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over. Nothing is over. Nothing. You just don't turn it off.